conference line, again, just scream if you can't hear us, and we'll do the same if we can't hear or we want clarification from something that comes through the phone. So just to start, of course, Dalhousie Student Union acknowledges that Dalhousie University and the Dalhousie Student Union building are located on traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Dalhousie Student Union seeks to honor the relation treaty process in its programming, events, and meetings. So we're just going to start with the roll call. So Kathleen, good. Rhiannon,
Present.
Dylan,
Here.
Amina,
Here.
Kelsey,
Here.
Anthony,
He's unable to make it.
Caddy.
It's Katie, but it's like Mean Girls.
It happened last meeting too.
Yeah.
It's written down on my list now.
Caddy Aaron.
So we have Cassie, you can hear us okay on the conference call?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Alex, you can hear us as well?
Yes.
Okay, Emma Sylvester.
Yeah.
Great. Ibit said she would be on her way. We have Ally here. We'll get to her appointment later, but you're present. Michael. Good. Mackenzie. Good, thanks. Mary?
Yeah.
Perfect. And Shauna, you can hear us okay on the conference call?
Yes.
And anyone whose name I didn't call around the table? Good. Daniel? And you're from engineering, Daniel?
I am, yes.
And anybody not on council visitor? Oh, sorry.
I'm on council.
Sorry.
Aboriginal rep.
Perfect.
Unless you said my name, I'm like half deaf. I am.
I didn't, you were right there. Come on, next. Perfect, thanks. And visitors, non-council members, just could I get your name?
Masu Malkan.
Perfect. Can you spell it, please?
Masuma, and it's Khan.
Perfect, thank you.
Do you have those close-up offices?
I do, yeah.
Oh.
It should be enough, but I have a couple more. Okay. Okay, so you all received all of the documents in the package for today's meeting, including the agenda. So do we have a motion to accept the agenda that was circulated? We can just do motions with raise of hands for firsts and seconds, and then we'll record. Of course, you're all like on council now because you did the ratifications last week. So do you have somebody just to accept the agenda as it was circulated? Kathleen, and a seconder. Perfect, Kelsey, thanks.
Get another game.
Okay, before we adopt the agenda, are there any changes or adjustments that anyone would like to move to be made on the agenda that was circulated?
There's just a typo here for minutes. It should be
Oh, the previous,
2016,
yep, okay.
5/25.
And the date at the top is just says May 25th, but I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
Just noticed.
Any other changes to the agenda circulated? Yeah, can we,
Nothing can be good.
well, we want to put it as an appointment. So Daniel, because you're here for engineering, can we just get a motion to add Daniel's appointment as the engineering rep? So move for the motion.
Sorry, I would just call it engineering, architecture planning, like, isn't it all encompassing, or is it just engineering? Okay,
It's architecture planning is one rep, and then
Oh,
engineering
okay.
is a different rep.
okay.
Yeah, so a motion just to add to the agenda that we'll be appointing Daniel for engineering. We have a mover for that motion.
Mary.
Perfect, Mary. And a seconder? Aaron, thanks. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as it is now. First and a second. First Kathleen, and a seconder to adopt the agenda, with just that one amendment to it. Mary, thanks. Yeah, if you could turn your name tags so that I can see, just because I'm still getting used to everyone's names. And I will always call your names out just for the sake of secretaries for tracking notes, so it's easier for the minutes. Perfect, so on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting? Dylan, and a seconder. Amina, thanks. And communications received.
No, we need to vote.
Yeah.
Again, sorry.
Minutes.
Oh, right, sorry. So, any opposition to accepting the minutes from the previous meeting? So the motion that we just had first and second. Is there any opposition to accepting the minutes from the previous meeting as circulated? Okay, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent. We accept and adopt the minutes from the previous meeting. And now to communications received. I have regrets from Katie Douglas. That's the only one I have.
Dylan, you
My
just say
report,
it
sorry.
verbally? Say, I have motion to circulate.
Motion to circulate my report. I didn't realize it was going to be.
Okay, no worries. So Dylan's motion to circulate the BPFO report.
Second.
Yeah, second. Kathleen, thanks. You already handed them out?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to physically move them around. Good. Normally those reports will go out with like the bulk package. No worries on that. Any other communications received from the exec? Perfect. Okay, on to appointments. So we're going to start with graduate studies. Is there anyone here other than Ali who wishes to seek nomination for the appointment of the council rep for graduate studies? Can I ask a second time for the graduate studies rep?
For these, we shouldn't call for nominations. These one by 6 days.
Okay, I was just going off to the draft for a new.
Yeah, but for, because they're part of the transition.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So Ali, you have been submitted or nominated for the graduate studies rep. Do we have a motion to accept Ali's nomination? Mary, thanks. And a second, Aaron. Now a vote for Ali's nomination as graduate studies rep. Is there any opposition to it first? Seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent. Congratulations, Ali, council rep for graduate studies.
What was your last name, sorry? How do you spell your
My
last name?
It's, you want me to spell it for you?
Yeah, just so I can find
I gotta come up there because it's really long.
No.
Okay, now the same process for Daniel for engineering. So Daniel, you've been submitted as the nominee for the council rep for the Faculty of Engineering. Is there a motion to accept the nomination of Daniel for engineering? Kate, Kelsey, thanks, and a second. Dylan? And any opposition or debate, comments, questions for Daniel being nominated? Seeing none, I'll take on unanimous consent. But that passes, so congrats, Daniel.
Woo!
In the engineering rep. Okay, now on to standing committee appointments. We started some of these last meeting, as you recall. We're going to do the same process that we did prior, which is allowing the chair of each of these committees to speak for a moment about them, so that you get a sense of what the committee involves. As a reminder, as council members, you're required to sit on at least one committee. There's a couple vacancies from some of the committees that have already started doing their work, but then there's also a couple committees that haven't gotten started. So we're just going to start by filling the committees that are already doing their work. So first standing committee that we're going to discuss is the Budget and Finance Committee. So Dylan, can you just speak briefly to introduce and remind everyone what that committee does? There's one council spot left for that committee.
Sure. So the Budget and Finance Committee is the committee that reviews and makes the new budget for the following year. So we'll also be completing the revision for December, so we'll see where spending has been happening, places where we might need to reallocate some money, and changing priorities in the union, so we get to have a say in the money. It's a party. I'll bring pizza.
So is there anybody on council who'd like to be in the?
I have a question.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the timing of the workload then?
So it's kind of heavier come revision time. So in October, November, it gets heavier. Through the summer, we likely won't be meeting. But yeah, come September, we'll probably have one meeting. October, we'll have one or two. And then November.
Hey there, I talked to Alex as well, and both of us can't hear anything.
Okay, is it, can you not hear anything coming from either end of the table or just when the other councillors speak?
I can only hear you. I didn't hear Dylan when he spoke at all.
Okay, so Dylan, can you just repeat again a little louder?
I wonder if these are on.
These are not connected to this phone.
Just the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Um,
What might be helpful, I don't know if any of you have access to a computer right now.
I'm actually watching the live stream, and it's about 30 seconds behind.
Oh, okay.
It's really hard to tell what's going on.
Can we
Yeah.
pass the phone like closer?
Like,
Whoever's speaking could go up, maybe?
yeah, or maybe people could just speak louder.
Okay.
They can also watch on the live stream.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
just said that there's a
that's
30-second delay.
Oh, so they're going to just.
Yeah.
Cool. So the Budget and Finance Committee is
Louder.
the Budget and
Yeah.
Finance Committee is responsible for creating and reviewing the budget of the union. They'll be responsible for the revision come December. It has a lot to do with like reviewing where spendings have been happening and reallocating the funds that we have. As priorities change, we'll have to spend in different spots. If that makes sense.
Did you folks hear that?
Yeah, that was much better. Thanks.
And does that answer?
I'm just moving the phone for a sec. I think it might help.
So we do have ordered like a more professional teleconferencing line. It's just not set up yet. So apologies to the three of you who are having to suffer through the local phone. So are there any other questions about the Budget and Finance Review Committee, including those on the conference, of course, for Dylan, before we open it to folks who want to participate in that committee?
Are there currently any other members?
Yeah. Mackenzie is on it, and Chris Abraham is the non-council member. He was here last meeting.
Any final questions? Okay, is there anyone present and folks on the conference call, just shout out, who'd be interested in the final council member spot on the Budget and Finance Committee? Okay, Michael Cody. And anyone on the conference call, just so I don't miss it?
I got you.
Okay. So seeing that there are no others, is there a motion to have Michael be on the Budget and Finance Committee? Dylan, a seconder for that motion. Amina, thank you. And is there any opposition to Michael sitting on the Budget and Finance Review Committee this year? Seeing no opposition, take by unanimous consent that Michael, congratulations, you're now on the Budget. Okay, next, the Bylaw and Policy Review Committee. Chair of that is Kathleen, so do you want to speak a bit more about that?
So yeah, the Bylaw and Policy Review Committee already has the 2 councillor spots filled, so we're just looking for 1 non-councillor spot. I'm sure that's why you're here, Musima, but that's okay if you're not. I'll just speak to it anyways. We're tasked with reviewing and ensuring that our bylaws and policies are intact and working in accordance with council's views and the mandate of the union. And so we just had a bylaw review and they passed at our last AGM in March. And so we're currently tasked with ensuring that all the policies that the union has is now connected and makes sense with the new bylaws. So that's kind of what we're going through now. We meet fairly regularly, and it is a bit of work in terms of like reading through the policies that we're reviewing, but it's super fun work. And I'm the chair.
Perfect, thanks. So again, that committee already has all the council members on it. I'm assuming is that the committee you were interested in, since you're the only non-council member here?
It's okay if you're not.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Just wanted to make sure. Although I do want to open up if anyone has any questions for
Yeah, it's also
Kathleen about the policy review.
Or if you have like pals who are interested in policy, or like this is also good practice for if you're interested in writing policy in your workplace, or if you're interested in working like for a government-ish body or something like that. So if you have friends who are interested, like please tell them about it and encourage them to get involved. Yeah.
I imagine if I put that out there, the first question I'm gonna get is what the time commitment's like.
Yeah, totally. So I said like we meet kind of once a week or bi-weekly, depending on what we're doing. The meetings are fairly quick and fast-moving, but there is a bit of homework, so you have to read through the policies before you show up and make sure that you're kind of covering the bases. And like, yes, no prior experience is required, but to have some interest in like policy or like language is obviously encouraged because you're going to be like reviewing the language of policies. Yeah.
Perfect, thanks. So do we want to have a motion to table the Elections Committee and the Elections Appeals Committee? We tabled them last meeting. These are committees that don't convene until much later in the year, getting set for election time. So that was the rationale for that. Do we have a motion for that? And then we can discuss it if folks want to. So a motion to table those two committee appointments, Kathleen, and seconded by Dylan. Any opposition or discussion points for tabling those two committee appointments?
Wait, can I just say something? So if you're a counselor and you want that to be like your council committee, oh no, wait, that's actually not representative, right? There's no counselor, so.
Yeah, they can't sit on.
Which committee?
The elections committee?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, so, but if we're tabling a committee and that's the committee that you'd like to be a part of, like, that's okay. So you can still fill it later if you want that to be your committee, yeah.
Okay, so we have a mover and a second and no opposition, so I'll take it by unanimous consent that we'll table the Elections Committee and the Elections Appeals Committee appointments for this meeting. So next is the Executive Review Committee. We did table this one last meeting, but I'll speak to it now if anyone's interested in being on it. We can do part of those appointments. We won't be meeting yet. The Executive Review Committee is chaired by myself. They meet to sort of put together executive review reports, essentially reviewing the performance of the executive. The work tends not to take place till a little bit later in the year. The reports sort of go in pre-January is sort of the tentative window. So there's not a lot of time commitment over the course of the summer, but if anyone has any questions or is interested in the Executive Review Committee, we can have those appointments now. So first, any questions about that committee? Okay, perfect. So the Executive Review Committee, let me just confirm. So one member, non-councillor, and 2 members of council are required. So is there anyone here interested in sitting on the Executive Review Committee?
What's the time commitment on that? Also, can you sit on multiple committees?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you can sit on multiple committees. There's only one non-council member spot on this committee. Again, the time commitment is fairly light. There won't be any meetings for a little while because the reports are sort of midway through the executive the sort of term that they hold. Reports are due in January. So later in the fall is when that'll pick up. I haven't set a schedule as far as the frequency of meetings. It's my first time chairing that committee, so I'll have to have some discussions to see what's worked in the past and what sort of changes we can make to make it work more efficiently. So I can't give you a real answer, unfortunately.
I wanted to know like a bunch of them. Like I don't know which one to pick, so I'm just gonna.
You can do more than one.
Yeah.
There's another.
But what if you want to do like 3? Is that a bit much?
You go, girl.
Go.
Do it.
Okay, Daniel, question?
I would just like to ask to see clarification on what exactly is meant by a review committee, specifically what you would be hoping to do from the council position.
Sure. So again, not having chaired this committee yet myself, but in the bylaws it sort of discusses what it is that is being reviewed specifically of the executive. So not only their attendance, their fulfillment of their obligations with council in general, but also their duties outside of the sort of council room, and putting together the sort of evaluations individually for each exec. again, I can't say too much
I
more
can
specifically.
speak a little bit to
if
it.
you've worked on it before, yeah.
I haven't worked on it, I've been an executive previously though. So I think a big helpful part of this committee is kind of having the executives have something to be accountable to that other than just council or just their members. So if there's a review committee that's that's responsible for reporting on the executive's actions throughout their term, then it gives them a little bit of motivation to continue work in the way that they should be doing so. So yeah, I think it's all encompassing like of what the bylaws say, but it's also just like a little bit of I think added pressure, which is a positive pressure, not a bad one.
Yeah, and it's a flexible committee, so
Yeah.
it says you have to submit one round of reports, but it doesn't preclude the possibility of submitting other reports or doing other forms of evaluation and developing those as well. So it has some room for creativity or changing things up each year. Sure.
Maybe I can also just add something in terms of the bylaw changes that were made recently. One of the things that was identified by the bylaw, the ad hoc bylaw review committee that put together the new bylaws was that there was that a lot of the executive review committee was much more subjective in the past, and that there should be some like criteria that are being used. So in the bylaws it says basically like that there has to be that what is being reviewed is whether or not the executive has fulfilled their requirements as outlined in the bylaws and policies, whether or not they've been attending the meetings that they're required to as part of their position, and I think there's a third thing. So just attending, whether they've been attending union and council meetings that are part of their position, whether they've been attending the university side meetings that they're supposed to be going to, and then whether they're fulfilling their responsibilities under the bylaws and policies. And then there's an additional element of having essentially an exit interview with executives to see what worked and if there was any issues in terms of like, are there changes that need to be made to what is allocated in terms of responsibility to the executives, and is there feedback that can be provided to the union as a whole in how the executive positions are structured. And so it's only really those two elements. One of them has to happen by January, and one of them has to happen by the end of the year.
Does that help?
Yes, it does, very much, thank you.
So again, is there anyone who'd be interested in sitting as one of the two council members on the executive review committee? Again, until these fill, we'll keep moving forward. Daniel?
I would be interested, yes.
Perfect. Do we have a motion for Daniel to be one of the executive review committee council members? Motion Rhiannon, seconded by Aaron. And any opposition to Daniel sitting on the executive review committee? Taken on unanimous consent that it passes. So Daniel, welcome to the executive review committee.
Tremblay, Tremblay.
And as there is one additional council position, I'll just ask one last time if there's anyone else interested in being on the executive review committee. Folks on the phone, just scream to get my attention if you're interested. Okay, no worries.
Can I join as a non-council member?
Sure. So there's one non-council member position in the executive review committee. Do we have a motion for Masuma, Aaron, and seconded by Kelsey? And on a vote, is there any opposition to Masuma being the non-council member on the executive review committee? Perfect. On unanimous consent, welcome to the executive review committee. Now, the next committee is the external committee. Amina, I think we tabled this last meeting just because it wasn't a committee that you thought or saw was going to be meeting soon. Would you like to put a motion to table it again, or would you like to talk about it and open it up?
Can I open it up?
Sure, definitely. So you want to speak to that committee and try and speak as loud as you can?
Sure. Can folks on the phone hear me?
Not really.
Not really.
Do you want to come up
Maybe
here?
I'll
and
turn
talk?
it down. Okay. So the external committee is the most fun committee. We help shape the campaigns for the union. We develop positions on issues relating to external affairs. We provide information to students regarding municipal, provincial, and national student issues. We plan actions and rallies. yeah, most fun.
Questions for Amina?
No, that's the one I wanna join.
Okay, sure. We'll get there in 1 second. Any questions for Amina about the external committee?
Oh, just to clarify, this is an open committee, right?
I think we need 3 council members and
Yeah.
then open, yeah.
Okay, cool. So that just means that if you are a counselor and you're already on another committee, you can also join this committee, correct?
It means that any member of the student union can come to any meeting. So both the external committee and the student life committee are committees where non-council members, the meetings are always open to non-council members, and they'll include counselors who will be the voting members, but generally the decisions are made collectively by whoever attends the meetings.
So we won't need a formal appointment
For non-councilors,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Are there any counselors who are interested in sitting in one of the 3 council positions for the external committee?
I'd like to sit.
I would be interested, Cassie, myself.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, Cassie, Aaron,
Oh, I think it was Kat.
No, pass.
Okay.
Cassie, Aaron, just hands again, just so that I don't miss any of them. Mary, and Ally. So now do we do that? It's 2 minutes apiece.
Yeah, I mean, so because it's an open committee, if like counselors feel strongly that they wanna be voting members on the committee, then like we can duke it out. But like even if you don't get appointed to this committee, because there's 4 of you, you can still sit on the committee because it's open, just to clarify, yeah.
But it won't be your committee requirement
Yeah.
for council.
Okay, so of the 4 that we have, Cassie, Aaron, Mary, and Ally, since there are 3 positions, is there any of the 4 of you who would be interested in just attending as a non-counselor to these meetings, or are all 4 of you firmly interested in being one of the 3 designated council reps?
Which is okay.
Which is totally fine either way. I just want to see if there's one, put the opportunity out if there's one of you who'd be interested in just being a non-council member. Okay.
The bylaws say at least 3. Does that
Oh,
mean?
do they say
Yeah,
at
they
least
say
3?
at least 3. So
Oh.
I don't see a problem with having 4.
Oh yeah, then it's fine. Should be fine, sorry I missed that.
Sure. Cool. Saves us having to do 2-minute round robins.
Good catch.
Perfect. So, in light of that, is there any additional council members who'd be interested in sitting as council members on this committee with those 4 potentially? Okay, I just wanted to check in case the 3 was what was scaring folks potentially. So for the 4 of you, do we want to just do one motion for the 4?
Yep.
So we have a motion to appoint Cassie, Aaron, Ally, and Mary to the external committee as designated council reps. Kathleen, and a seconder for that motion. Daniel, thanks. So do we have any opposition to those 4, Cassie, Aaron, Mary, and Ali, sitting as designated council reps on the external committee? Seeing no opposition, by unanimous consent, congratulations to the 4 of you. You are 4 designated council reps on. And again, Masuma, because it's an open committee. You can-
I'll just be there.
Sure, it's obviously not. Yeah, perfect, thanks. Grant and Sponsorship Committee, Dylan, you chair this one.
Yeah.
Did I get that right
We
this
need
time?
one more, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So the grant sponsorship committee is responsible for administering the grants and sponsorships for the union. So students apply for grants and sponsorships for member grants to go to conferences, or society grants to host events, or sponsorships for usually events. So you're one of the people that votes on deciding who gets funding for their event and administering that fund.
Perfect. Are there any questions for Dylan about the structure, time commitments, content of the Grant and Sponsorship Committee?
Time commitment?
Would you be able to talk a bit about the time commitment?
Yeah, so it's usually, we try to meet once every 3 weeks about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bit of homework though, so you have to read through, yeah.
No, not usually. We can do the grants at the thing. Yeah.
Okay.
At the meetings.
Any other questions for Dylan with the Grants and Sponsorship Committee?
I have a a bit of a question for this and also just in general. So I am interested in this subcommittee. Part of my hesitation is that with me representing CSS, I'm only here until September when the actual CSS VPE is going to represent CSS. So is there any purpose in me signing up for a subcommittee if I'm not necessarily going to be I'm not going to be a council member in September?
Yeah, I mean, so you would serve through the summer, so that's cool. And if your successor wants to stay on the committee, they can, but you'd resign when you leave,
Okay.
and then we could just fill it.
And it's okay if he, when he comes in, doesn't want to take that same place and throws out numbers? Okay.
Also, what if you're a president of a society that's requesting a grant? Is that like sort
Yeah.
of sketchy?
Yeah, you don't review your own grant.
Okay.
Same as if you apply for a member grant or something.
Fair question.
Yeah.
There's also a very clear conflict of interest element of the bylaws, and so that's what kind of rules if someone is in that kind of position.
Okay, so the grant sponsorship committee, sorry?
Dylan, are you only looking for council members?
One council member, yeah. Great. If
Right, Chris Abraham is your non-council and Katie, yeah,
Yeah.
for now.
Hey, the feed just cut out for like about 30 seconds there. Did you guys already vote on that council?
For the granted sponsorship committee?
Yeah, sorry, I just wasn't able to hear any of that.
Yeah, no worries, we have not voted yet.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Okay, so there's one council position open for the grant and sponsorship committee. Are there any councilors who are interested in filling this spot on the grants and sponsorship committee?
I would like to. I'm Shauna.
Shauna? And as well, sorry, your name is just a little small.
Emma?
Emma, perfect. Okay, so this one unfortunately isn't an open and at least sort of committee, so given that there's one spot left, what we'll have to do is the two of you will have the opportunity to speak on your qualifications, why you think you would be a good fit for this committee, and then we will vote and decide if that makes sense. But it needs to be in camera, so for the conference call, awesome.
The honor
I
system?
can also just
We
like
can
drop
mute.
in. Shauna
No,
can just
but
have it.
they are entitled. Oh,
So you have to speak for 2 minutes.
There's mute buttons on phones.
yeah, but not them on the call.
That's okay. If
No.
was it Emma? If she's just there, feel free to just take that.
No, Shauna, it's okay.
They're both doing
Okay,
it.
so
Shauna, you can just have it.
If that makes things easier.
So Shauna, Emma is saying the same thing.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Quick point, if the person on the phone who wants a spot isn't gonna be here during the summer, Emma's not gonna be starting in the new year, they could potentially
True.
both have the position.
So-
Do you want to just repeat that?
Yeah, so Shauna, Emma is saying that she's only serving as her constituency council member for the summer. So if you'd be interested, she could hold this committee position over the course of the summer, and then you could take it over come September. Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. I'm all the way in Calgary, so I'm that would be very helpful actually.
Perfect. Well then, for now, we'll say that Emma is interested in the position, then Shauna, you'll withdraw just for the summer for now.
That sounds great.
Perfect. Okay, is there anyone else who's interested in the grant sponsorship committee council position? Okay, do we have a motion for Emma to fill this last spot? Dylan, and seconded by Kelsey, thanks. And any opposition to Emma filling the last council spot on the grant sponsorship committee? Seeing none, I take it on unanimous consent that Emma, congratulations, you're now filling the grant sponsorship committee. And Dylan, just make a note for yourself so that you're tracking that Shauna will want to take over that after the summer.
And should I be joining another one for this summer? Because I know we have to join one.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Some won't be
Okay,
starting.
all right.
Yeah, some committees don't start till the fall anyways, so it's okay.
Okay, great, no problem.
Okay, next, the Society Review Committee. Rihanna, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, this is the Real Happening Committee. We love societies. So yeah, what this committee does is go through ratification processes for levied societies and faculty level societies. We go through their constitutions and just make sure everything's up to date with society policy and work ongoing on society issues. In the summer, we'll be meeting more often, maybe less often, like bi-weekly during the school year. Lots of fun. Currently has me as chair, Dylan sits on the committee as VPFO, and there's 2 other members, Alex from council and Chris is a non-council member, and we're looking for another council member.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions about the Society Review Committee? Okay, perfect. Is there anyone who is interested in filling the last council spot on the Society Review Committee? We are able to keep filling these committees over time until you're forced. But if you're interested,
No, I'll do it.
okay, Aaron is interested in the last council spot.
It's like, okay, during the summer, for this first part, we're going to be meeting probably like weekly to be going over things, and then during the school year, I think it'll be bi-weekly.
Sweet, I'm here also.
Cool.
Okay, Aaron is interested in the last council spot for the Society Review Committee. Anyone else, just before we motion that? Okay, we have a motion for Aaron to be accepted as the last council member on this committee. Kathleen seconded. Amina, thanks. And is there any opposition to Aaron filling this last council position on the Society Review Committee? Perfect, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent that Aaron, you are now the last council member on the Society Review Committee. Next is the Student Life Committee. Kelsey, I know we tabled this last time. You recall if you'd like to table again or get that ball rolling.
The committee doesn't start until the fall, but it's like if we want to do it, sure. It's an open committee, much like the External Action Committee, so we need at least 2 councillors to sit on it, but...
Sure, why don't you speak to it for a minute,
Yeah.
and we can get some names down if folks are interested, if they know already, and then that's always something that we can fill down the road.
Let me know if you can't hear me on the phone. So the Student Life Committee essentially is a committee that plans programming for students on campus. That covers a lot of different things. Kind of some of the larger events would be Frost Fest, or this year as we called it, Snow Week. Also some of the concerts, that kind of stuff. It's not just about events though. There's a lot of programming that surrounds mental health and first aid, that kind of stuff. And so it's largely just a committee to like create a better student experience for folks on campus. So we meet bi-weekly, and I'd like to say that the amount of work you take on is kind of up to you. So if you're really engaged and really want to be involved in taking on a lot of the planning of certain events, then there's an opportunity to do that, but there's also an opportunity to be there as more of like idea sharing, feedback. So it's kind of as much or as little that you want to put into the committee.
Perfect, thanks. Are there any questions about the Student Life Committee?
Are the 2 seats, how many seats are there currently filled?
None. So we had tabled this committee until now. And it's, like I said, so there's at least 2 council members that are needed to sit on the committee, but it is open for folks to also count more than just the 2.
Yeah, it's open to go as a non-council member, but also it's one of these at least ex-council members, so there can be additional official council members there as well for their official committee requirement. Okay, any other questions, last questions? All right, is there anyone interested in filling any of the council positions on the Student Life Committee?
Yeah.
Perfect, Allie?
This is actually the most fun council. They're a committee member.
Okay, anyone else? Perfect, we have a motion for Allie to be named as one of the 2 council members on the Student Life Committee. Mary, thanks, and a seconder, Kathleen. Okay, any opposition to Allie being made one of the 2 council members on the Student Life Committee? Seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent. Congrats, Ali, you are one of the 2 members of the Student Life Committee. Okay, now before we move on from this committee, is there anyone here not on council who's interested in being one of the 3 designated non-council members who are sitting on the Student Life Committee? Okay, 1, 2. Okay, perfect. So because there are 3 spots, there will be no need to speak back and forth if both of you are interested. Masuma, I have your name, but sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Aisha.
Aisha.
A-I-S-H-A.
It's okay. Could I be the 3rd? No,
If you like, sure.
Aisha, what was your last name? A-B-A-W-A-J-Y.
And your name?
Then it's Austin. A-U-S-T-E-N. And
Okay, do we have a motion for Masuma, Aisha, and Austin being the 3 members, non-council members on the Student Life Committee? Okay. Sorry, moved by Daniel. Sorry, thanks. I will get into faces eventually, I promise. Moved by Daniel, thanks, and a seconder. If it's perfect, thanks. And to a vote, is there any opposition to Masuma, Aisha, and Austin being the 3 non-council members on the Student Life Committee? See no opposition, I'll take it on unanimous consent. Congrats, you're the 3 designated non-council members. Kelsey, did you expect to fill that much?
I didn't. This is great. Thanks for coming, folks.
Okay, the last committee is not one of the sort of bylaw standing committees. It comes from a little bit of somewhere else. This is the Ombudsperson Hiring Committee. I sent a little blurb about this via Kathleen in the council notice package this month, but I'm going to let Kathleen speak a little bit about it as well. If you got your computers, you can pull up that blurb if you have any reference or questions as well, but Kathleen, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so this is a super special and exciting committee. It's a official university committee, and we as DSU Council has been tasked with appointing 1 council member to this committee. So the committee is tasked with hiring a new position at the university, a position of the Ombudsperson. This is really exciting. An Ombudsperson is meant to be a kind of non-biased member, or actually outside member of the university community who students can go to for help if they have issues, for grievances, for direction, to speak on their behalf. So they're very much all-encompassing. They work in the same way that kind of a counselor would, with a lot more of a legal background. So it's an incredible asset that we're gaining to this university. We've been fighting for it for a while, and we finally have one, so it's really exciting. And we also fought pretty hard excuse me, to make sure that the representation on this hiring committee was even. So we've got 3 university members and 3 students. So us as the students will kind of meet prior to these committee meetings and just make sure we're all kind of on the same page. But you are tasked with a pretty important job of hiring a really important new member of university staff. So I'll just speak to the membership. So the Vice Provost of Student Affairs, Arig, is the chair of the committee. And then a legal counsel, Corinne, is on it as well. And then they will elect a faculty representative, just from the university. And then I will be on the committee, and the president of DEGS, or a designate selected by DEGS, is going to be on the committee. I think it is going to be the president. So actually, if you are a grad student, you're unable to put yourself forth for this committee because graduate students are already adequately represented. And then there's 1 more spot open for us to elect. Maybe I'll just open it to questions if people have, the time commitment is not going to be that intense, so we'll be having a couple committee meetings prior to the hiring process, and then we'll actually have to sit in on interviews for the person, and then have after post-interview meetings where we'll select a person to be hired. So unfortunately for folks who are away, you do have to be present in Halifax for the committee because you'll have to be present at interviews and to speak at committee meetings. So sorry about that. And yeah, just any questions that folks have. Yeah.
What is the timeline for the hiring?
They will be hired by mid-August. So it'll be just in the summer, and then you'll be done your job.
Perfect, thanks. Any other questions for Kathleen about the Ombudsperson hiring committee?
Yeah.
I might have missed this, but how is the current graduate representative selected for this?
It was just the chair said that it would be helpful to have undergrad students represented and grad students represented, so they just said that they would task DEGS with doing so. Okay. So it would just ended up being the DEGS president. Yeah, it's pretty chilling.
I have a question that might be relevant.
Yeah.
Is there flexibility on when meetings can happen? So if folks are working during the day, are the meetings going to happen within business hours?
Most likely, but I mean we can always try and work around that. I expect some meetings to happen during the day, but we could also have some later on in the day. Whoever gets, well, obviously accommodated schedules, whoever does get appointed.
Okay, any other questions for Kathleen?
I would say one more thing. If you've never done anything like this before, don't like feel like that's a reason to not do it. It's an awesome experience to sit to hire someone, and it's a great learning experience. So I would encourage anyone to put their name forward. Sorry, only counselors.
Perfect. Okay, seeing no more questions, are there any council members interested in the one council position on the Ombudsperson hiring committee? Aaron, any others? Okay, is there a motion for Aaron to be the council member sitting on the Ombudsperson hiring committee? Rhiannon, and seconded by Dylan. And to the vote, is there any opposition to Aaron sitting on the Ombudsperson hiring committee as the designated council member? Okay, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent. Aaron, congrats, you're on the Ombudsperson. There will be other committees, so if you're worried that none of these committees were super appealing to you or just time commitments or not being here for the summer, there are other committees that are struck. These are just sort of the core ones that we want to make sure get covered as soon as possible. So there are other opportunities that will come up. So on to presentations, there being none today on the agenda, we'll move to reports of committees. Since we don't have a BOGS person here today. Oh.
But there's nothing to report. We are haven't had a meeting yet. We have the Board of Governors annual meeting next Tuesday. So if you're interested in like what a BOGS meeting looks like or figuring out what happens at those, like they're open to the public. So if you'd like to attend, they're in the McDonald building on the quad. It's like the one across from the U Club on the Hicks in the Lord Dalhousie room. Sorry, what's it called? So it's in there. If you're interested, let me know. I know what room it is. I just don't know what it's called. And so you'll have an update on Board of Governors next meeting. We still haven't met. And then after that, it's inactive in the summer until the fall. Oh, and then just the other thing is that one of our student board reps, Anthony, is stepping down after this meeting. So there will be a by-election come fall to have someone else become a board rep. So if can these folks do that? I don't know. But to put it out to your constituencies, that's also important. So just to be really aware that that's going to happen is, important to us. I'm unsure if you can view.
Yeah, we'll look into that for new bylaws and get back to you.
Yeah. You're already
Amina, would you like to speak to the Senate caucus? I know also not a lot of activity as well, but.
Yeah, not a lot of activity. Senate has stopped meeting for the summer. We are working to fill our Senate seats, so I've reached out to all the faculty level societies, as well as the equity seats, except for the Black students equity seat and the disability equity seat, just because there is no currently an umbrella society for those groups. So I will be reaching out to members from those communities to see the best way to move forward with that. If you have any questions about Senate, there's stuff in the report.
Perfect, thanks. So moving on, no old business from the last meeting other than those appointments. So new business, I sent out the petition for the pharmacy society fee increase that was dealt with internally by them, but we do need a motion to table that just for this meeting because that's something that needs to be ratified here just with a vote, but we haven't confirmed with the registrar the student numbers that they submitted for the petition, so we're still waiting on that for confirmation to be able to vote on it, and we still don't have a designated rep for health professionals either to confirm this referendum as well. So can we just get a motion to table that because we can't vote on it yet, we're still missing some stuff. So a motion to table the pharmacy society fee increase. Dylan, thanks. And a second? Amina? Any other questions or discussion before we just vote on tabling that?
Can I just ask, you said there's one health rep for, who do they cover?
Yeah, so the new structure has one rep for the health professionals, so it's social work, nursing, pharmacy.
Occupational therapy, anything that falls under the faculty of health professions.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on their rep to be submitted. And it just takes a bit longer sometimes with the new joint reps just because they need confirmation from all of these separate groups. But also still waiting on just the confirmation for the student numbers on the petition. Okay, so just a vote for tabling that to the next meeting. Hopefully we'll have what we need to get it next. I think we've already got our mover and our second, but any opposition to tabling that discussion till the next meeting? Perfect, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent that passes.
Woo.
Exciting stuff, I know. So, on to the business of the executive. Kathleen, maybe something a little bit more exciting. Kathleen, can you speak to your report that was circulated?
Sure. Yeah, so my report was circulated as usual. If folks have any questions that they're not comfortable raising at this table, my email is there. I think I'm also gonna hopefully open up some office hours soon. But in the summer, sometimes those are kind of there's not as many people around. But yeah, hopefully, and in the fall for sure have concrete office hours. But yeah, I'm working a couple things I'll highlight. We're gonna do a staff executive retreat between full-time staff and the executive to kind of talk about the executive goals that we have, and then implement those through with our current staff members. And so this is just a really exciting time because once we have a kind of a timeline established for what our goals are and kind of how they'll go in action, then we can actually start doing stuff with it. I think the summer becomes kind of a time where you can really plan for what's going to happen in the year, so that's something that I'm really excited about. We're going to be hiring not one, but 2 new equity and accessibility officers for our ENA office. So the timeline for that is to have those people in position by the fall, and those are more than like part-time jobs, almost full-time, not fully full-time. Yeah.
When do they start?
They'll start in the fall, so we're gonna put a call out for jobs soon, and the hiring process will happen through the summer, and they'll be ready to go. Yeah, in the fall.
I just want to throw something out there if
Yeah.
I can. One thing that I would note is that the university club
Yeah.
is not actually accessible.
Good call.
And that there is actually funding available for making community
Yeah, totally.
accessible, but it actually closes on July 26th.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
I can send you a link right now.
That'd be great. Yeah, just to my email there. That'd be awesome. And you ran it. You're also taking this down. Cool. We're continuing. So we have bi-weekly meetings with the student services team, which is really helpful for us to connect on things and ways that we can work with each other and gain resources from the university for projects. A bunch of other stuff, but something I'll highlight is that DSU is getting involved with the University Pride Week planning. So the DSU has taken on planning the opening ceremonies for Pride Week, which will happen July 19th, the Monday of Pride Week. I can figure out dates. And then we're also going to host a kind of like a panel / town hall that's kind of a speaking / open discussion style event. So if folks are interested in getting involved in that, in the planning, it's super open, and we're really hoping to gain a lot of community membership from the university community. So if you would like to get involved, please let me know. And also I'll keep putting reminders out for that to tell your constituencies to attend. Yeah, there's other stuff on here, but if folks just have questions, I like doing it that way.
Okay, are there any questions for Kathleen about her report? Perfect, thank you, Kathleen. Moving on to the VPI, Rhiannon, do you want to speak or highlight anything in your report that was circulated?
Yeah. So my report's online. You can go through it. It's pretty interesting. I talk in a nice manner. The first part, societies ratifications are well underway. There's a bit of a backlog for levied and faculty societies, which should be addressed this week. If you are having trouble booking space on campus, though, as I know some people who aren't ratified yet have, just contact me and I can help you with that or other society resources. Staff training planning is underway for part-time staff coming in the fall. Lots of fun. We have a DSU softball team. If anybody wants to play, we've been having a lot of fun.
It is fun.
A lot of fun. We play tomorrow. The app, so the DSU app is wonderful. We're looking for new ways to engage students with it, like putting it more in O Week. And just getting the app out there. We're also working on the website and just how we review the website and what kind of content should be on the website. If you have a lot of website feelings, get at me. Tiger Society. excited to announce we're getting rid of Tiger Society. A lot of people hate it, and I love the people. So we're looking to integrate the administration of Tiger Society and like societies in general on the back end of our website, and just moving to platforms that students already use instead of trying to get students to use Tiger Society, because that didn't work. Convocations were fun. I graduated. Phone line committee has been meeting, working on securing funding for the phone line. And then the last thing, just Pride stuff, like Kathleen said. If you like to do Pride stuff, get at somebody. And Society and Volunteer Expo, planning is underway as well. The Society and Volunteer Expo will be on Wednesday, September 21st. Very exciting, working with CLDC on that. And just looking to start mapping out the Sexton Society Fair dates over the next few weeks, and hammering out the January Society and Volunteer Fair date. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
Perfect, thanks Rhiannon. Dylan, VPFO, can you speak to your report briefly?
First, I apologize. I didn't get it out in time. I was away until late Monday and I forgot to get it done on Friday. But I just want to draw attention to a couple of things. One, renos are still on schedule, knock on wood. Should be done September 1st with deficiencies going to like the second week of September, but we'll be done September 1st. We got our wage review for full-time staff, so this is something we contracted Grant Thornton to do the exact last year, contracted them to do, and it took forever to get back, so we finally got it. So I'll be working to bring the wages in line with their recommendations, so it's basically based on like markets for the jobs that we offer, and making sure that our wages are competitive but not out of step with the market. And most importantly for you folks, our contract with Pepsi is up at the end of the month, at the end of July, next month. So we're beginning a consultation process ASAP to get students' perspective on what should be included. And then we'll be building a model and basically offering it up to Coke and Pepsi because they're pretty much the only two. But we need to get it in place in August so that our bar has like the stuff that they need and our food services have the same. Notable is that council a few years ago passed a motion to forbid bottled water in the building. So the next contract would have to include a ban on bottled water, which isn't great for us, and I've received some lobbying efforts from Pepsi that banning bottled water doesn't change the amount of bottles that are sold, they just buy other stuff. But anyway, if no one wants to change that, that's cool, but just should be noted that we won't be able to sell bottled water. It'll be everywhere else on campus, but not in the summer. So yeah, if anyone has any thoughts on that, I'll also be circulating hopefully through Mitch, our consultation process, so it'll probably be a web form. So we'll advertising on Facebook and all that stuff.
Yeah, do you know what the like ramifications to the contract are, or like were when that resolution was passed?
So
like, was there a decline in what they offered?
So it hasn't taken effect yet because we were in the contract. It was a 7-year deal.
Okay.
So because it was passed in the middle of the deal, we couldn't ban it. It was to take effect at the end of that one. So there's no way to know. Obviously Pepsi has a vested interest in making Aquafina available, but they've said that the sales of bottles don't decrease and that they pay less for not having bottles in the building, for not being able to sell that product in the building. So we'll probably make less off the contract, but I don't know. It's up to folks.
Is this just for like vending machines being filled?
So it's for the vending
also for
machines,
Greenwood and stuff?
Chartwells, the Tims, the Pete's,
Okay.
for our catering services, for the bars, the tea room, and the Greywood. Any pop that we sell, we have an exclusivity deal on.
I don't know. Any other questions for Dylan on that topic, or any from his report?
Just, I think only having pop for sale is not the healthiest option either. They recently banned all pop at the IWK.
The worst.
And like, they've got like free water stations and stuff. Something to think about maybe.
Yeah, no, and that's like yeah, I think that'll be an important part
If
of
it's, I understand it's like environmental things, but from the health perspective too. Different side of things.
Yeah, I'm sure to circulate, once those consultations start happening, we'll make sure everyone can be involved. Any other questions on the financial report? Perfect, thanks Dylan. So academic and external, Amina, can you speak to your report a little bit?
Yeah, so my report was circulated, just to speak to some of the highlights. Convocation was great. At Senate, we got an update on the 4 report recommendations, which I included as an attachment, if that went through. But if not, we can circulate it with the next package maybe. I attended the CFS biannual general meeting with Rhiannon, and there was a motion passed to have a National Day of Action, which will be happening on November 2nd. So I think the external committee has their work cut out for them. Also, DAGS is now a prospective member of the CFS. Lots of exciting stuff happening at the DSAS office. The executive director position's hours were reduced and we hired an assistant summer director for the summer, obviously. Dylan and I are working with Craig to increase accountability for DSU office staff. We're moving away from honoraria to hourly wages, and figuring out ways that we can account for that time, yes. We received notice today that an MOU was signed yesterday between provinces and the universities. So I'll be working with Sarah to put out an official response, so if anyone has any feels about that, please get in contact. Some upcoming things, there will be a municipal elections planning meeting and a National Day of Action planning meeting on July 10th. If anyone's interested, let me know. As well as the 3rd Sexualized Violence Action Planning meeting, tentatively for June 30th. Check out our Facebook for confirmed dates. Questions? Cool.
Awesome, and I did find that attachment. I can circulate that right after the meeting. Thanks, Amina. Last but certainly not least, Kelsey for Student Life. Do you want to comment on your report?
Yeah, so everybody has my report. I'm just going to talk about a few brief things. First thing is the wellness room. So I'm working with Rhiannon and Dylan, and as well as some university folks to get some solid programming in there. The wellness room is a space that focuses on wellness that encompasses more than just like health wellness, but also like financial wellness, mental health. So it's kind of like a really big, all-encompassing space for students that's really unique. If folks are interested in hosting programming in the wellness room, or not necessarily hosting, but if there's something that they would really like to see, please bring that to my attention because we are looking for some feedback on that. Also working on some programming for the Greywood. We're bringing back / introducing the concept of like a society night. So we're looking to have it so that all of the Friday nights throughout the terms that would be excluding the Dallas Got Talent nights, but there's only like 2 or 3 a term, having like a society go in and kind of like host an event, which would be kind of cool and kind of fun and a good way to get societies more active and engaging with their members, but also with folks who aren't in those societies necessarily. So if folks are interested from a society's perspective or bring those back to societies they've done, that would be cool. And the final thing, speaking of societies, from an orientation update, the schedule will be available very soon. If you just go to roarientation.com, it's like orientation but like roar like a tiger. The schedule will be posted there for everyone to see. One of the big things that we've done this year is we've actually moved faculty orientations out of the intensive days of programming, and we've put it on the Tuesday afternoon just after classes. And the reason this was done is because in the past we've had a lot of difficulties getting faculties on board with having an event on a holiday, because I guess that was troubling for a lot of faculty members and administration folks to be able to attend, as well as there were just like a number of faculty orientations that just weren't happening on those days, and so we wanted to make it that was something that if students didn't have somewhere to go, it wasn't like they were missing a day of their week, but rather now they just like have an hour off in an afternoon, that kind of thing. So there'll be an email going out to faculties as well as the faculty level societies, but if there are reps who are also interested in getting involved that aren't necessarily like it'll be going to the president, so if there's anyone specifically who wants to get involved with that, you can reach out to me or just reach out to the president of your society. Otherwise, if you have any questions, now's a great time.
I just have a comment that for the Society Nights at the Greywood, it's really exciting because it's going to be like an incredible new space. The new Greywood, if you've seen any of the plans online, is like going to be amazing. So yeah, it's just like really exciting.
It's like an opportunity for societies to be like, this is like a little bit of ours too. So it's kind of like moving into your new home. It's fun. It'd be nice.
Perfect, thanks. Any other questions for Kelsey on the student life report? Awesome. So we have some notices of motion today. Okay, Kathleen?
Yeah, so the bylaw policy review committee has been hard at work because we're still able to have quorum without having our non-counselor appointed. So just motion for the next council meeting to review some policies that we have been reviewing, and so we actually have 2 policies that we're going to be repealing, which means like removing. Because they don't now make sense with the new bylaws, 2 policies that we're going to be amending, and then 2 brand new policies that we're going to be introducing to go in with the bylaws. So I have a full stack of them here. If you want electronic copies, they'll also go around in the council package, so you don't have to pass those out. I'm just going to quickly speak to what they are. So the 2 ones that we're repealing is the Board of Operations policy, because in the new bylaws, the Board of Operations is now not a thing anymore. So the responsibilities of the Board of Operations have moved to council and to the Sponsorship and Grants Committee. And then there's also a motion to repeal the union rules and procedures policy because they are adequately covered in the bylaws. And then we've amended things to kind of make more sense with the council policy, as well as the executive policy. So all of the things that we're amending are noted in the track changes. So if you could look over those before the next council meeting and come with questions. We don't have to pass all of them in the first meeting that we have, but the committee has been working to make sure that they make sense. But there are a couple things that we'll just definitely have discussion. And then we're introducing, adopting 2 new ones. So standing resolutions and council and general meeting procedures. So is that
so maybe I can just explain
Yeah,
what standing resolutions
okay.
are. So standing resolutions, so the DSU now uses Robert's rules as its parliamentary authority, which it didn't, it sort of did last year, but prior to that it used its kind of own set of rules that it had made up. And so one of the things that is allowed for in Robert's rules is the concept of a standing resolution. And so what a standing resolution is it's basically a motion that is passed once, that it has effect pretty much in perpetuity, unless at any time council wants to change it for that period of time. So for example, in the union rules and procedures policy, it said that all council meetings had to be no more than 3 hours unless council voted by 2/3 to extend the meeting. So now the standing resolution will say that the meetings have to be 2 hours, and then if council wants to amend that at a meeting, they will have the power. 3 hours. 3 hours, and then if council wants to amend that at a meeting, they are able to without having to contribute policy or without having to have that kind of flexibility in the policy. We can keep the policy firm and have these standing resolutions. And the other thing about standing resolutions is that They're just essentially like, you know how many of you would know that at a general meeting, for example, we would say, okay, we're gonna limit the speakers list to 4 speakers in favor and 4 speakers against. This just kind of sets that out as the norm, and then if people decide they wanna add more speakers in favor and more against, that can be done on the floor and it's not a problem. It's just a more flexible policy tool. So I think I printed a bunch of things for council, but I forgot to print the standing resolutions, but it'll be in the
electronic package.
Yeah.
No, we do.
Oh, you do? Do you have the voter ID policy?
I think
Yeah.
this half of the table doesn't though.
Oh.
The bunches were like,
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll look through them.
And I'll send out an electronic bundle of all of those by the end of this week, so it's not, it won't, there'll be a copy of them again in the
Yeah.
formal council meeting package
Okay,
prior to council meeting next month, but I'll send these out early as well.
Do you want to pass those this way? Okay, and then the last policy that we are going to be adopting is the voter identification policy. So this one is brand new because with the new bylaws, we'll actually have DSU councillor representative elections during our general election in March. And so what that means is that when you're voting, regardless of the method that we're voting in, you're eligible to vote for if you're an Aboriginal student, your Aboriginal student representative who will sit on DSU council in that bulk voting period. So like your ballot would look different than someone who was not an Aboriginal student. So now we have to have a policy to have voter identification and cover all the bases for that. So this one, so those are all like, we're hoping to have very robust discussions around them because there are like some issues that we need to air out with those. So yeah, we're not looking to pass them in haste. So just making sure that like we're checking all the boxes before we do that. Yeah, and the same goes for like your faculty. So if you're a computer science student, you'll vote for that in the general election next year. Yeah, and those are all the things that we're bringing to motion at next council. So like everyone said, it'll be an electronic package, and if you have any questions about the policies, like I'm here to be a standing board, but also if you have questions and you're wondering like, oh, why does this look like this, it's good to refer back to the bylaws because that's kind of where these have come from, the new bylaws, which are online on the website. So just check those out and maybe read through them quickly of which ones these affect for the amendments. Cool. Yeah.
I just have one quick question. I might have missed it. I just had a lot coming at me there.
Yeah, of course.
So next meeting, we are voting to approve the standing resolutions. Is that right?
Yeah, like we don't have to approve it. We're just motioning that like we want to approve it eventually. So what will normally happen with things like this, especially if it's a new thing, that we'll have a discussion about it and then it'll go back to the bylaw and policy committee and we'll make amendments that like councillors think of and then we'll bring it back for final approval. So yeah, it's nothing that like
It'll be reviewed.
Exactly, yeah. But for example, if like something as straightforward as like repealing the Board of Operations policy because there's no more Board of Operations, then that's like, you don't really need to have a really robust discussion about that unless people are like, I missed the Board of Ops. Yeah, cool.
Perfect, thanks Kathleen. Any other questions about that notice?
And if anyone doesn't have them, I have extras.
And I know there's like a weird like one that's just edits, and I think for the executive officer's policy, it's the.
So is the first version the one that's deleted, and the second one is the new one?
No, all of that would be edited, so anything that's in there has probably been removed. The first one is the one that is just, that's the text that is now being proposed.
Okay.
And just to add to what Kathleen was saying in terms of the bylaws, you'll notice that some of the policies have a lot of things removed. That's probably because they've been added to the bylaws, so just if you're like, we don't have this stuff anymore, and it was really important, probably it was so important that we decided it should be in the bylaws, not in the policies.
This is the front of that.
Yeah, so we're definitely in sort of a transition window for those of you who are sitting on council for the first time, myself included. So getting oriented with the bylaws is important just because they were pretty overhauled this past year, so there's lots of new stuff that's there. So we'll bring back those. Yeah. Any other notices of motion?
A quick question.
Oh, sure.
This is just something that I didn't hear covered in should be probably a standing agenda item, I believe, would be ensuring that deductions are made. I'm not sure about the structure yet because I'm relatively new, but are DSU staff paid hourly, salary, honorarium?
Sorry, I'm not sure what your question is.
So there's very few, in Nova Scotia there's very few reasons a board could be held liable.
Okay.
But one of them is if they're performing due diligence to make sure that remittances were made for pay.
Right.
And just because I don't know the structure here.
Sure. So it's all like kind of different, but all of our full-time staff and executives are paid like salary wages.
Okay.
And then part-time staff are paid hourly, and then there are some strange positions which we're actually trying to like not be a thing anymore, are honorarium based, which means like you're technically kind of volunteer and then you get an in-kind monetary gift at the end of your term if you fulfill all of your means, which in review over the past bit is not a great structure to work for. Like everyone should be paid hourly for the work that they're paying. So yeah, that's a good point to bring up, but it does follow a salary base for most positions. Yeah.
For deductions, it
Yeah.
goes through DAL, so they do the deductions. Your T4, the T4s for people that work here come from DAL, so we don't handle it.
Covered that.
Yeah.
Good question.
Any other questions on that notice of motion or any other notices of motion for the next meeting? Perfect, so on to announcements. So as always, I'll just remind everyone, the next council meeting tentatively will be July 20th, 5:30 in this room. Once again, I did circulate our tentative schedule for the whole year in your council orientation package. Hopefully that helps some folks with scheduling and work and that kind of stuff. Those are subject to change, but the minute we ever change one of them, I'll be sure to send an email to let you know so you can keep that as a running schedule, because that will be what I'm operating off of as well. I have one additional announcement just about that council orientation package. If you have it with you, you can pull it up, and if not, just make a quick note. In the section that talks about speaking orders, speaking procedures, and putting together a speaker list, there's sort of a couple principles that I just put down sort of in general, and Bart pointed out, thankfully, that they can be a bit confusing because they're not really explicit. I try to keep things general because it didn't make sense to rewrite the policy if you could just go read the policy. But generally what we'll do is the mover of a motion gets to speak first in accordance with Robert's rules, and then from there you alternate between speakers for and against. In the orientation package I say the mover gets to speak first, and then the seconder gets to speak after the first mover. That's just in the absence of a visible for or against speaker. The next speaker would, if they so chose to do so, would be the seconder of the motion, if that makes sense. So generally it's not really going to come up. The mover of the motion gets to speak first, and then we just alternate back and forth for and against till everyone's exhausted the right to speak. And then we move to vote if that's clear. So the main priority in the speaking list is alternating, even though it's not the first bullet, which was the issue. Cool. Any questions about that? Perfect. Any other announcements? Brianna?
So yeah, as discussed, the next meeting will be right in the middle of Pride Week. So at the beginning of that week, we'll be having opening ceremonies. Keep your ears to the ground for information on that. And then that Saturday, there'll be a Dow contingent in the Pride Parade. It'd be great to see you folks, constituencies, whatever, out to that. Yeah, that's all.
I mean,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that our next session will be taking photos for the wall.
right, we were going to try and take photos today, but we didn't have our photographer. So next session, again, as hopeful and fingers crossed as it was for this session, we'll be taking photos for the board. The board as you come up the stairs, you can see that they take photos. And that'll help me as well because I'll actually do flashcards with names and stuff. Dorky as that sounds, it's just, it helps and it'll speed things up in the meeting.
So look as fabulous as you did today.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, Kelsey.
Quick update, there's a Shinorama Bar Blitz this weekend, so if anybody's downtown on Saturday night and you see the Shinorama folks, feel free to donate. Also, there's going to be a Shinorama softball tournament coming up. It's August 14th-ish?
No, it's the 13th.
13th, 14th August.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
great.
a weekend.
So start rallying some folks for a softball team if you're interested.
What's Shinorama?
Ooh, great question. So Julia's actually our Shinorama director, so she could probably speak to this better than I could, but essentially Shinorama is a fundraising initiative that happens on campus through a committee, and Shinorama supports Cystic Fibrosis Canada, and cystic fibrosis is a disease that affects like a mucus buildup in the lungs, so it affects breathing abilities, and in the past, like 51 years or 52 years that the universities have been involved in Shinorama, the life expectancy for somebody living with CF has gone from somewhere like 4 to 6 years old to somewhere like high 40s,
Yeah,
something
like
like
51.
that. 51, yeah. So the efforts are pretty great. They're doing great things, and so Shinorama is a great initiative and cause that we're able to be a part of. Yay.
Keep in mind, folks, the announcement period, we said this last time, but there's a couple new counselors. This is sort of an open call if there's cool events, fundraisers, promotional stuff that's going on in your constituencies and stuff that you just want to share. So more generally, less formally, this is the time to do it. Aaron, yeah?
So a couple. If anyone is emailing what was formerly DNSA, we've now changed our name to DISC, which is Dalhousie Indigenous Students Collective. There's just a more inclusive term. So that's out there. They're dealing with the full ratification stuff. Other than that, tomorrow afternoon at 5 p.m. we are having the inaugural smudging ceremony of our smudging space upstairs, and everyone is welcome to come. So that's, do we know where that is? The Indigenous Student Center. So it's at the very top on your left, you'll see it. But facility management put in a ventilation system so we could have a smudging space here on campus, and it will be the first smudging ceremony. When I'm back in the city next week, I'm going to start daily smudging ceremonies in the mornings, time to be announced. But if you're wanting to come, you have questions, anything, it's totally open. I'm coming for 2 minutes, a whole hour, don't matter. It's all there.
What time is the inaugural smudging tomorrow?
5. And it's put on by one of our elders in residence, Jerry Musquala Bluff. I won't be here.
Any other announcements?
If you haven't given me your statement of office, can you give it to me before you leave?
Perfect. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, moved by Dylan and seconded by Aaron, big time. Okay, any opposition to adjourning?
I just want to stay forever.
Seeing none, I'll take on unanimous consent. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, folks.